So you're in Tokyo, this huge city that never ends, but surprisingly goes to sleep quite early. You know, it's a hub for vintage clothing, and you have your precious vacation days to prove it. This is an incomplete guide to vintage shopping in Tokyo, based on my experience living here for the past months and focusing mainly on areas and places I visited in person. We will be covering 3 important hotspots in Tokyo, highlighting individual stores that I found wonderful, and also defining the 3 archetypes of stores that you will come across. As a proof of concept, I will make myself vulnerable and pose for the camera from my shoebox, showing items that I've bought in these various places. I will also link my Google Maps list for shopping in Tokyo if you want to be time efficient. Arguably, the most inviting for foreign vintage shoppers, Shimokitazawa is a whole neighborhood with nothing but second-hand stores and a couple of restaurants. It's excessive, in a way that makes you sorry for the people that live there. Upon arrival, it can be quite overwhelming, but you will quickly figure out that the important area is walkable in under 10 minutes in every direction. There, you will find all 3 archetypes of used clothing stores. Throughout the entire city, you will find chains called Second Street, Mode of, Ragtag, and more, with Second Street being the biggest with 1,000 stores. The inside of these reminds me a lot of Safdie Brother films that are set in these shady New York jewelry dealer establishments where they will try to steal your health insurance. Here you will not find passion or love for vintage itself. Embrace the fact that it has a wide variety of new designer pieces with oftentimes high, sometimes not as high prices. I mostly come to these when I have a very specific brand in mind that I want to browse, like Le Maire or Our Legacy. 7 out of 10 times you can be sure you'll find something. Also, since Second Street has such an obscene scale, you can use it almost like Essence, because their inventory of all 1,000 stores is available online. There is a ton of smaller second-hand chains in Shimokitazawa, oftentimes not easily recognizable. Those include Chicago, New York Joe, Jam, Flamingo, Kindle, No Time, Big Time, and Step Ahead. The inventory of these is never as good as from purely independent stores in my experience, and they sometimes sneak in their own brands, often made from polyester. For the independent stores, there's not much to say, except that you want to compare prices on very specific items that you will keep coming across in all mentioned stores. Tommy Bahama resort shirts, genuine leather jackets made in Asia, graphic tees from surrounding attraction sites like Disneyland, late-stage Ralph Lauren and Brooks Brothers button-ups made in China or Vietnam. The area is home to approximately 200 stores. It's a huge business, and I was told there is a decrease in treasures and a rise of easy-to-acquire generic inventory, like the items mentioned earlier. And the argument can be made that the area is still a gem for people who might live in clothing poverty, but it needs to be mentioned that the prices for these items are surprisingly high. I'd argue the average price lies between 15 and 30 euros. Because of that, I decided to embrace Shimokitazawa for the handful of independent, real vintage-focused boutiques. The prices there can be much higher, with items ranging between 50 and 150 euros. But I found just looking at the garment tags of really old items to be a lot of fun. My favorite stores were Seelen, aka CAK Vintage, and Make My Day, all of which are more on the outer ring of the district. At Make My Day, I found this 90s Yves Saint Laurent hidden button closure shirt. It fits perfectly into my current obsession with ambivalent colors, as it appears purplish from afar, but is actually just woven of sky blue and bright orange threads. At Seelen, I almost got this trench coat with a top grain leather collar, fully lined in Shetland wool. At aka CAKA, I found this dusty pink skipper polo made from an impeccable wool cotton flannel. This Italian lightweight silk bomber with a garment tag that looks antique. And this sun-bleached Columbia work jacket. In Second Street, I got a past season graph paper shirt of pure wool. In New York Exchange, I got this cotton sweatshirt combining jersey with poplin. And at Desert Snow, I got this very basic Ralph Lauren cotton polo and Brooks Brothers long sleeve button-up that I got tailored to be short-sleeved. Now, Koenji is a stark contrast to Shimokitazawa, though it might not look like it at first. In this neighborhood, you'll find the most stores in an actual shopping street, one that you will find multiple times in Tokyo. There are vintage stores left and right, but be aware that there are more, arguably better stores once you leave the shopping street. Here, you'll stumble over a type of vintage shopping that gives you fear of missing out because there's so much stuff. You have no idea where to start. All you know is that you really want to. The prices here are better, though you must get used to the fact that Tokyo is not a place for cent amount bargains. And they also have 2nd Street twice. Writing this, I just noticed how little I bought in Koenji, but I found the best inventory to be at Whistler's, Gasoline, Real, and Slut. Here, I bought this woven silk polo. There is something fascinatingly weird about how Koenji's used clothing world is laid out. Usually, I associate a shopping mall like this with low-quality, shady polyester brands that try to lure in tourists. But there are some really small gems and independently run stores here. Kichijoji is where I currently live, and I consider it to be a huge privilege to pass the vintage street every time I go to the train station. Most stores are in this one street, though the best ones are ones more hidden behind corners. In Kichijoji, you'll find a lot of smaller chains, one of them being Safari, which has 2 stores in the area that both offer great bargains. Used clothing in Kichijoji is the most affordable I've come across, with nice items often being under 10 euros. You also have another 2nd Street, the worst one. My advice, as for all 3 areas, is to identify the most obvious space within the individual area and then leave it. Many great stores are scattered around the hotspots with independently run shops and passionate shop owners. For Kichijoji, that would be Volo, One, Orfeo, Nico, Youngbloods, and Ensemble. Here, you'll find interesting selected pieces, though at higher prices. If you want to be on the affordable side, go for New York Exchange, Safari, Amber Lion, and Flamingo. In Kichijoji, I got this zip-up from Tommy Bahama for 12 euros, a basic cotton Henley for a fucked up 30 euros, don't ask me, this pure wool Burberry coat for 8 euros, this Italian summer polo walking the line between really ugly and tasteful, a black flax linen shirt for 15 euros. Now, as we have discussed the 3 areas that every one of you has heard before, maybe I have one final shot at offering you an inside tip. Probably not. I might be unaware that the area is actually super famous, but I'll try anyway. When I came to Tokyo, I first lived in a share house in Tomigaya, which is a boring, wealthy residential area. And it is around Yoyogi Hachiman Station that you'll find a few gems that I keep coming back to even after having left the area. While the stores here aren't thrift stores, they will offer you made in USA era Brooks Brothers and Ralph Lauren an abundance of vintage designer button-ups, horsehide leather jackets, and genuine pre-war garments with German cadet names on the tag. Nowhere else have I found this much passion for vintage than in some stores around this area. In Sinot, for example, you have 2 lovely guys traveling Europe to find pieces that could belong in a museum, and you can witness the joy in their eyes when you ask them questions. Here I got this German funnel jacket and Missoni polo, both from the 80s. Down the street, there's also Front 11201. The store is neatly organized and well curated, though above average expensive, with button-ups going up to $60. But this store specifically made me realize that I never want to buy button-ups firsthand ever again, as they are simply too accessible here. Other honorable mentions include Tridici, Aways, Amici, and I beg you to go to Finiazagi Antiques. The store is fully hidden within a residential area. I happened to stumble upon it by accident, and the owner was confused that they got a customer. The whole space feels like someone turned their living room into a collection of vintage designer and pre-1950s garments, just because they love history so much. As a bottom line, I want to emphasize how the best vintage stores are usually the ones with independent owners who are not really using Google Maps. I urge you to just walk to places. In Tokyo, you'll often find vintage stores on the side of any road, independently from what area you're in. If you want to be time efficient, visit Shimokitazawa, Koenji, or Kichijoji. And of course, if you have nerves of steel and a big tolerance for other humans who are also on vacation and want the exact same thing as you can obviously go to Shibuya and Harajuku. I'm new to YouTube, by the way, so I don't really know if I now say something as an epilogue or just stop talking.